Oh, this is a nice song actually.
It is. So how long does it take you to prep for a show?
The week before, I must have
An idea.
of at least a couple of concepts.
Mr. Zuma, the fact that you took a shower after having unprotected sex with an HIV positive woman, believing that it would minimize your risk, has really angered AIDS activists. What is your response to their criticism?
But if we have been in the kitchen, my dear, peeling onion, you wash your hands, not so. What was funny about washing your hands after doing something? After washing yourself, what's the problem?
But Mr. Zuma, AIDS is a big problem in this country. And saying things like
And
taking a shower.
hygiene is a big problem in this country. Clean yourself.
Wow. I'm ready.
Tshwane FM 93.6, your station. The people have spoken. Unlock room 912.
Good morning, my favorite Lena.
Hi, how are you?
How are you, my love?
Oh, good thing, good thing.
You make me to every time like I must lose myself to room 912 because of your voice.
Oh, wow, thank you. Please let's continue. How's your day?
So good. Just let me hear your beautiful voice. Oh, man.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, man, that guy, man. It's not everyone who is alive on air. The language is lacking.
Why was it well over?
Man, come on, that is so much.
Room 912 weekdays on Tshwane FM 93.6. Tshwane FM 93.6, Cap City's #1 radio station.
Hey, what's wrong with Mzala, the guy? Hey, what's wrong with me? Nah, what if? What if you still run like president of Mzala? South Africa. You mean I'm going to go to Tshwane? Put on Facebook and book and ask for you. Man, I never mixed it. There is Haganza. And why is what one of our snacks? President of the Moma Figan, not to study robot or like this. I read Emma from Kunne. Haley, yellow, and it's a with the Takano, Marwa, Emma, the one of the Diana, Tabona, what I think about our
Capital Breakfast
on Tshwane FM.
Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. #Rise to the morning.
It's exactly 39 minutes after the hour 6 o'clock. It's a great evening to you, and thank you so much for your listening pleasure tonight. My name is Mokete Radebe. I am your news pioneer. It's a great Tuesday evening, and we're going to have a great time. And this is the socio-economic aspect of the Capital Talk, and we looking at also new features. We do have the legal, the legal minds on the legal segments with Refilwe Lechaba, that is, the lady steering that one for us. Remember, we still have, the property launch. That is where we speak anything property on the flip side of this conversation with, Tony Mampuru at the real estate. But before I jump into today's discussion, a big shout out to colleagues. The Capsule Drive that was with Tumelo Mohapi, into Mahina size. And before Tumelo, Lloyd came through as well between 12 and 3 p.m. And before that, we also had, Meram Pamola, that came through with us, from 9 to 12 o'clock. And, before that, we also started up your show with Kamu and the team on the breakfast show there. And that's exactly how we started your day today. It's a lovely Tuesday evening now. It's been very hot in Pretoria. I don't know if I'm the only person that is feeling the heat. For a moment, I felt like I'm in Messina or I'm in parts of Limpopo. Limpopo is a very warm, province. So when you hear such heat, you think, yeah, but let's look at news that are making headlines. At this point in time, it appears as though the defense in the Brad and Horner case said that the DNA results presented by the state were exceptional enough to ensure that the suspects were granted bail. Sikula Mathalesa and Sekweja Mahlamba applying for bail in the Senegal Magistrate Court. They're accused of killing 21-year-old farm manager when he caught them trying to steal stock. Now, the court now, the court heard that the suspects' swabs were tested against the DNA in Horner's Baki and came back negative for one of the suspects, while the swab of the other suspect was defective. Now, the lawyers of the defense have actually at this point in time, have been arguing for the entire day to try and finish the application on Tuesday and afford the magistrate an opportunity to think that, straight and there's nothing you can do, but yeah, 42 minutes after hour 6 o'clock, and now the lawyers for the defense have been arguing for the entire day to try and finish the application on Tuesday and afford the magistrate an opportunity to think about the evidence before him. But furthermore, it appears as though that Transnet Singh is forced to hedge global to sign the MOU, and of course, the State Capture Commission has heard how Transnet CFO Anoj Singh forced engineering firm Hedge Global to partner with a company owned by Nalin Parayahe and Dave Reddy. Now, Hedge Global project manager Hank Basta said that the company was due to be awarded a rail expansion, but it was held to ransom by a memorandum of understanding that was brought by the joint venture. He said that Rudy Bassen told him that Singh had handpicked Parayahe and Reddy's companies to be supply development partners for the project. In the retail space, the Competition Commission has signed an agreement of consent with retailer Pick n Pay, seeking to eliminate the company's exclusive leases in shopping malls. Now, this is in compliance with the recommendations of the Grocery Retail Market Inquiry, which, among others, highlighted that such agreements between businesses and property managers has an adverse impact on other industry players. And I feel that's a fair state of affairs. The University of Forte said it's put several measures in place after the institution recorded 33 COVID-19 cases in the space of a week. Now, the university said it had established a COVID-19 investigation team and had tested 422 students by Saturday. On the 33 infections, 2 staff members have contracted the virus. University spokesperson Tandima Pukata said that they were in the process of securing quarantine site for the East London campus, in addition to the 134-bed quarantine and isolation facility in Alice. The university is said to be working very closely with the Eastern Cape Department of Health, with being able to undertake more tests at their East London campus, and they continue to test, and they are acquiring rather more quarantine sites in that space. So that's all that we're having in terms of the news that are making headlines. I would have made a big mistake if I jumped to this one. This is a big story for us at this point in time. Also trending on Twitter, a gun which has been positively linked to the killing of Orlando Pirates goalkeeper Senzo Meyiwa has been found to have also been used in the murder of a taxi boss 3 months after the star died. Sure. The media now can reveal that, or rather reported today, that police had made a breakthrough in Meyiwa's murder case, and also revealed that the police have identified the man who allegedly fired the shots that killed Meyiwa in October 2014. And now the team investigating Meyiwa's case had reportedly interviewed a prisoner believed to be linked to the soccer player's murder. Now the man, according to the media, is currently serving a 30-year jail term for the murder of a Johannesburg taxi boss. But now this firearm was found at the Cleveland police station, and it turns out that the guy, the accused, has been fingered as having participated in the assassination of Senzo Meyiwa. And in 2015, the guy is also accused of murdering a taxi boss in Alexander. It looks like the guy was tried for that and was sentenced to 30 years in prison. And something doesn't add up here, but it's fine. 45 minutes after 6 o'clock. Refilwe is with us here. Refs Lechaba.
Thank you for having me
Are you
today.
lovely?
I'm good.
Hey man, get more real how
But why is it unconventional?
Uloye jwang wena ka
I'm real blunt, unconventional. This is the unconventional blonde lawyer.
Kana ba reng ba re the blonde lawyer?
The unconventional blonde lawyer.
The
Yes.
unconventional blonde lawyer. That's
Yeah.
legally correct.
That's legally correct. That's how you must phrase it.
Interesting. Look, hear the stories. Maybe let's start before we jump into today's segments. And Refilwe is going to be, heading the legal discussions on this show from now moving forward. We introduced her briefly last week, but yeah, she'll definitely be doing that with us. Now, briefly, let's speak about the Senzo Meyiwa case before we jump into that. I think it's
It's an interesting matter. I just found gaps in the story because it appears that this gun was used in another crime, and this person was already sentenced for this crime, and then they found it at another. And Cleveland is not around Johannesburg, so how the gun got there. And interesting, if you go further down into news, if you read the news further, they do say that they are going to charge every single person that was in that house because they found them to be hostile witnesses. When you are a hostile witness, it simply means you are not forthcoming with information. You didn't want to tell the police what you saw, whatever. So apparently, according to newspaper reports, everybody in that house is going to be charged. With what? We don't know.
Legally, can they sort of fight that in court to say, no, I don't deserve to be charged?
I mean, if there's no evidence against you.
Yeah, but if the state feels that you were a hostile
witness, it is a criminal offense. You can actually go to prison for being a hostile witness.
But you know what? I don't like conspiracies, but in this regard, it sounds to me that this guy who's serving a 30-year sentence is a suitable person to take the fall for this matter.
He has nothing to lose.
He has nothing to lose.
Yeah.
You get my point?
Yes.
He sounds like a criminal who has nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And I feel as though that the real killer
he's still out there.
Yeah. I feel like this gun, this thing was planted.
Yeah.
And this is not the first case that I had felt this way. It was a case of a young girl in Polokwane who was found to have been stabbed a lot of times. And what they found was that they found the murder weapon and the cell phone of the lady at the suspect's home.
Yeah.
And now the issue here is that the suspect was on charges of rape. And to me, it sounded as if this guy is such a convenient person to take the fall.
Definitely, it happens. And unfortunately, look at the cynical matter where DNA evidence has literally blown that case. This whole week, we were hearing about how these two men murdered this white farmer. We're not saying they didn't murder him, but DNA evidence is now contrary because one, the DNA evidence didn't match for one suspect. The other, it was defective. And if it's defective, that's a huge problem because if you don't have DNA evidence, you don't have witnesses, how are you going to place these people on the medicine?
So yeah, maybe let's just explain that for me. How about defective? How
about a defective? Something happened. They collected it, but probably somebody, not intentionally, but somehow maybe before it got to the lab, something happened to it. So now they can't really. It's like a fingerprint. When you take a fingerprint and maybe you take it and then something happens to it, you don't seal it properly and it gets contaminated.
So can't they then take the fingerprint that?
Well, you already took your fingerprints. The chances of you going back to your medicine or crime scene and trying to get evidence again are very likely. It's very highly unlikely that you'll get fingerprints again. So the chances of them getting probably that car, if the state returned, I mean, when the state is done with evidence, for example, a vehicle, they usually give it back to you once they are done with the investigation and they say they've collected all the DNA. Probably if they've already given it back, those people washed that vehicle, it's probably dirty. So the chances of you getting that DNA in that vehicle, that's why it has blown this case completely. That is why there was no justified reason to keep them. Because I remember how everyone was saying they cannot get bail. The public is the public is still very infuriated. I mean, you can imagine what's going to happen.
My question is, what could have led them to become suspects? Is it
probably, I think, probably there was a white, not sorry for the word white, but there was probably somebody who alleged. And I mean, these are people, so you must remember that when somebody dies, the first suspects are people who are normally close. If I was your spouse and you died, who's the first suspect is going to be me. They're going to obviously question me.
And
well, I can defend myself luckily. So probably because these people used to work for this farmer and one of them has an extensive criminal record. I think I heard this morning that one of them had actually been arrested for 16 times.
Sure. Had
been convicted twice. For one was robbery or something, and then had gone out early. So obviously, like you say, sometimes it's very easy to pin it on people because of their background. They've got a previous conviction, so he's a suitable candidate to be a murderer because he's got previous convictions.
Are you then saying to me that because of perhaps the lack of empowerment in our investigative departments, then cases and suspects sometimes go without?
Definitely. I can definitely tell you.
Then what happens?
I can definitely tell you, sorry about that. I can definitely tell you that there are people who've been wrongly convicted. It's a thing, it's not just in South Africa. I mean, there's even documentaries that were made in the US.
Just in the wrongly convicted.
Yeah.
What sort of comes into play then?
Then literally where people don't have DNA evidence, it's hearsay evidence, eyewitness evidence, and hearsay evidence. Refilwe then says, no, get money. I saw him with a gun. And she goes to court, Refilwe goes to court, positively convinces everybody that she saw Mokete that
so
guy.
Is that enough evidence?
Sometimes it is. I mean,
so let's say it's the case of you and I want to go back. There's cases of people who were convicted because of rape, for instance. Harry, I'm staying with you. Or maybe you say I raped you 10 years ago. Can I still be convicted?
You can. I mean, they're obviously, but it's going to be based. That one, we don't have DNA evidence. But it's you can be, but it's hard. A hard case to prove. That is why people often say, but why did you come after 10 years? I mean, there are multiple reasons why people come after 10 years, but it's people must remember that if you're going to be assaulted even now, if somebody assaults you now, it's best to go now to open a case. Immediately after you get raped, you have to go. DNA is important in that case because, I mean, even after a day, it might be a tad too late.
But I'm looking at even, cases, for instance, where, some people will say, no, actually, Mokete tried to like the harassments. For instance.
The harassments ones.
How are those prevalent?
How those are prevalent because, and you know why? How those ones get convicted often? It's eyewitness and character evidence.
Okay, character
evidence is when they call a fellow who's known you for years. Who can testify to what type of a person you are. Who can say, oh, this guy on a little he likes, he grabs people's, I'm not surprised.
Okay. So now that one is based on character. So in absence of character weaknesses,
if you don't have if you don't have any type of evidence linking somebody to a crime, they cannot be convicted for the crime.
But doesn't that now then affect the many victims that from time to time are afraid to come out? I'm looking at a case in Mpumalanga. There's an ANC leader who's said to have abused or raped her children, but hauna evidence enough.
Exactly. You know what? And that is the sad reality of what we live in, the society we live in, is that if you get raped and you don't seek help in time, the chances of getting the person convicted are very slim. And unfortunately, it's a sad reality. Yeah. Interesting.
It's 54 minutes after 6 o'clock. Still here on the Capital Talk, and I'm with the lovely Refilwe. She's the brains behind the legal aspect. What do you have for us in terms of the top stories legally there? I know that the greasy one. It's what everyone is looking at.
We're going to get to that one next.
Okay.
I think we should start off with a very, very important legal matter, or rather, it's a more of a public announcement.
Yeah.
There's something called Wills Week.
Yeah.
We all know how important.
Can I be honest?
Yeah. Okay. Unali week.
I'm not disposed of the matter. Okay.
Unali week.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I was hearing about this specific promotion for the first time in my life.
Really?
Yes.
And I think that is why I wanted to speak about it today, because you're not the first person.
Yeah.
I've actually reached out to people, and people were like, "Hey, Wills Week, what's
Imagine
that?"
such an informed person like Nasa.
So Wills Week is an initiative by the Law Society of South Africa. So essentially what they're trying to do is they're trying to get people who are by the week. And can I please be honest, they're targeting as boomdike, like people, because usually they have assets. They would want to say, I want my assets to go to this one, to whoever. So it's an initiative that the Law Society has had over the years. It's 1 week in the year. It's usually around September, October. This year it starts next week Monday till next week Friday.
Sure.
And what they do is they ask lawyers like myself, but practicing attorneys, to volunteer their time.
Okay.
To draft wills for free for the public.
Yeah.
So all you have to do is to go onto the Law Society's website and then find a lawyer in Gauteng, book, and you're good to go. Unfortunately, now I'm not a practicing attorney. I could always help you draft the will because I'm a lawyer.
You know, the biggest question around wills, it has been, because of and the only thing that I have to my name legit is my clothes.
Okay, but what do you want to happen to your clothes?
Exactly. So people would feel, and also some people I think were of the view already they will be at work.
Well, you know what? The thing is who create a lawyer to draft your will. But now here is an opportunity. You know, the thing is, I could wake up and say, I'm drafting a will. The only problem why you need somebody with a legal mind is that most wills were declared invalid in court because you didn't follow the requirements. I mean, stuff like somebody who's benefiting in the will, who's a beneficiary, cannot sign as a witness. People make that simple mistake. But if you had a lawyer like me, I would tell you, no, I get a feeling you are benefiting, you can't sign as a witness. Go find somebody else to be a witness. So it's the simple things.
Mara, isn't it difficult then because of automatically it will register benefit.
Why would you make your wife? Also, let me clear up something very important. You must remember that even if you make a will will never supersede your matrimonial property system. So if you're married in community of property, your wife is still going to get her share. Maybe you are just saying, my share 50%, she mustn't get. But she's still going to get her share in terms of the marriage.
And also, you know, with the law, and I want to to just take a short left, Kapi. I'm not sure if that still applies, but why is it that women are the ones are always favored in terms of the custody?
That's a misconception that I actually told somebody the other day that we need to clear.
Please clear it up.
So traditionally, let's look at it in this way. I'm not saying legally. Traditionally, the mother was known as the one to nurture and take care of Bana. And
Yeah.
I'm being honest, right?
Yeah.
She's the one who's at home with the kids, traditionally, whilst you go out and work,
I
right?
hear you.
So traditionally, that was the perception. That's why kids were given to the woman, because she's been taking care of these kids. Now you are going to be given these kids. You don't even have a home.
Sure.
You have an unstable lifestyle. You get home at 10. Who's going to make sure the homework is done? So we must all remember that it doesn't necessarily mean that the woman will always get.
But isn't it that based on past perceptions?
It's past perception.
Because today, le have propaganda alone. Again, sometimes I see sure na how about you rutabana ka homework.
Yeah.
Ga tseba nna le wena hore ka maths ko classeng ulanga 44
zero
wa bona wena how no o tswile sharp ke nka 49 but normally for motho wa 44 41 and I'm the one in natural 89 that is why ulan shela lo shela so it goes back to saying isn't it that some of the interpretations of the traditional roles of male and male and female, it's just based on data that doesn't really reflect today's realities. And maybe I want to understand that to a certain degree.
And can I tell you, you would be surprised to find out that more men are actually starting to get custody of kids, and the wife is getting visitation rights. I mean, I was in court just before lockdown where the father had custody, and the woman, and he was actually trying to move overseas with the kids and his new wife. And the wife had to come to, the ex-wife had to come to court to fight that. So I think...
Did you win?
No. Because you must remember, when custody is a lot of factors, it's not just about the nurturing and whatnot. It's also about somebody who can actually take care of those kids emotionally, financially. It's also stability. Stability. And also, I think the most important thing that we have to remember when you decide any matter that has to do with a minor is the best interest of the child. So the court will always ask itself, what's the best interest for Karabo? Is it to live with his dad who's unstable, who comes home at 10, who's got an amazing job, earns 150,000 per month, but comes home at 10, will probably need to have a helper and a tutor to stay with him? Or is it better for Karabo to stay with his mother who earns 10,000 rand, comes home at like 3, can make sure he's well fed, even if I can only 10,000, and when are you 100K? Who's in who between us? The best interest. Even if you live in a mansion with a pool. There's nothing wrong. I can learn my job.
No, not everything is.
There's nothing wrong. It has nothing to do with the personal life. Makara when your boyfriend's 100, it's fine. What matters is the best interest of the child.
But don't the children get to have a say?
They do. They often they do. I mean, if a child is a minor, they would never have them in court. We have them on what they call on camera. They give evidence on camera where they'll get a psychologist or a social worker to actually sit with those kids to ask them questions. Who do you actually want to live with? And they won't take it as I want to live with mommy because mommy has a nice car and a nice house. They'll ask more questions. They won't take it. Oh, that I was saying because mommy. They'll ask more questions. It's all about you sit down, you evaluate, and you ask questions. I mean, that's why when I do social worker, they do visits to come see who has the most stable home, who's going to bring more stability for these kids. Even if the ex-husband has 150K compared to the ex-girlfriend who's got 10K. I mean, money is a factor, but it's not it doesn't necessarily mean it's in the best interest of the child.
Interesting. Let's go back to Wills, and you were saying
so Wills,
roughly, if I'm to miss this week, roughly how much can a person expect to pay for the development of a will?
So normally the consultations that the lawyer are per hour, they vary from 500 rand per hour. So you'd obviously pay per hour. If you're going to consult if you've got a lot of assets, you're probably not going to consult for an hour. You're going to consult for beyond an hour. So it'll be 500 times however many hours. So that's what I'm saying, guys. Take this opportunity and use it. Whether only, even if you have that one bedroom at the back of the house, if you have that one car, go and get a will.
And how are a lot of assets? There's been a very, very difficult comprehension of what exactly are assets. A lot of people thought asset, perishable, what legally, what is an asset?
An asset is something that is tangible. has value,
Mm.
and you can use it as security also. So yes, in accounting terms, some of them will tell you, oh, a vehicle depreciates. In accounting terms, it's not an asset. Let me tell you, people keep their old Mercedes-Benz for 20 years and they put it in a will to say that's an antique, that's worth, it has value. If something has value, it is an asset to you. So don't this notion that but I only have a uno, who cares about it? That is an asset. Go get a will. I mean, the best thing about having a will is knowing that you can like a peace of mind, and you won't have the dramas about coming to show your spouse and your children flames claiming your money. You know, you don't want your spouse, your kids to be uncomfortable after you die, guys. Think about that. You want them to have peace of mind. And it's also a way to have your last wishes. If you want to be cremated, you can tell them in your will, I want to be cremated, and make sure that they read this in time before I get buried, because normally the will be read after. So you can also always have a dossier to say, before, just after I pass away, make sure that you read this part of my will to my family, which can say that I want to be cremated, or I want to be married next to Mama Kalipapa, buried next to Mama Kalipapa, stuff like that. So that's why
I've seen some people buy the video, man. So is that the in thing?
Well, you can do a video. I mean, I don't know if it will pass. You know, it's tricky because that one, if you're going to have a will video, it's going to be very tricky because who are your witnesses? Are you going to have two people come and say, I witnessed it? That one will be the first. And it's so interesting that we've never had a South African case. A will video. But you can have your last wishes on video to say, listen, so my will is with my lawyer who's at number 2 Kuba Street at Refilwe Attorneys. Go see her. She'll give you the will and she'll read it out. I mean, some people even put like crazy conditions. If you want to inherit your portion, you have to get married to Tep. You can even do that.
Tepoki is the family.
Oh, Tepo is maybe a girlfriend you've always loved. Maybe Wanaha had an amazing girlfriend like myself, and you're like, I want this girl to be part of the family.
I missed that part. Okay. Yeah. But again, give myself
myself, like Refilwe. So
okay. It's 6 minutes after 7 o'clock, and we are on the Capital Talk right here with myself, Mokete Radebe, and the amazing Refilwe.
Yes.
That's correct, right?
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you something. What's now? This type of
if Tepo then that provision is null and void. You can't marry Tepo again. Or if Tepo says, no, I don't want to marry you, then you get your money. Some of them will say, I don't want my son to inherit. A lot of people put it to make sure that they don't spend their money recklessly. You can even say, I don't want my son to inherit this share of his inheritance before he turns 21.
Sure.
Maybe you know that you have made allowance for him to survive and whatnot, but there's a large chunk of money you don't want.
How I find out that 19 years or that's if you 20 maybe
unfortunately, I had to go for if you go for analysis, it will go to his kids, otherwise it will go to his parents, maybe the other surviving parent or siblings. Yeah.
Sure. 7 minutes after 7 o'clock. So just continue with that the Wills Week, but they can just
go to the Law Society's website, which is www.lssa.org, and they can get it there. .org.za, sorry about that, and they can get all the information they need. Click on the Wills Week, and then click on the Gauteng tab, and then you can get a list of all of the attorneys who have graciously volunteered their time to draft wills for.
And this is nationwide, right?
This is nationwide across South Africa.
Interesting. And another important thing, I think it's while we're still in the wills, I'm gonna just try to drag it a bit because I think it's a very fundamental thing. A lot of people think on that thing, the assets, like you were saying, the UNO, and what are some of the things that are a no-no in terms of the will? Say, maybe from the top of your head, you remember, body that's expensive.
Yeah, you can. It's an asset.
The
asset, guys. Ring. I mean, for example, inherited ring when my mother died. So it ring to me. Yeah, her wedding ring came to me.
So your husband,
because it was her wishes. So if I was to get married or whatever, I could wear it around my because it's mine. So
your
you're
husband
told,
doesn't have to
I
buy
was
a ring.
thinking, no, listen, guys, if you want to marry me, don't worry, get a ring, it's sorted. Yeah.
Shouldn't put that down.
So I think-
now regular boyfriends is already ring. So
I think it's so important that people do not dwell on ring. Watch, those are assets that you can decide to. I wanted to go to my son. I wanted to keep it in the family. You can even pass down stuff to generations. You can say it's gonna go to my son, then it's gonna go to my son's son. Keep it down the family line, stuff like that.
much well, I want to say bank. Now go back to inheritally diet plan. 9 after 7 o'clock. Let's move to the other interesting cases.
The another interesting case you mentioned it, Agrizi.
Yeah.
This is the man who is at the crux of corruption in South Africa, and
Sure.
we hear that he was trying to flee, and that is why, no, he was trying to flee the country. That is why he was denied bail. It has become apparent that he was busy buying the assets in Italy, was going to leave the country without asking for his passport from the state. How is he going to leave South Africa without a passport that is in? I get you know that when you are being charged with a criminal offense, right? If you've been charged and you are undergoing trial and you are out on bail, one of the conditions is that you can't travel outside your area without asking for permission. So let's say if I'm like Norimu, Pretoria or Gauteng, I can't go to, for example, Limpopo without telling the police that I'm going to Limpopo for
Exactly.
You have to ask for permission, stuff like that. And normally, if you have a passport, they ask for your passport because obviously they don't want you to flee. This man gave in his passport, but suddenly he's booking flights to Italy. So how are you getting to Italy with no passport? Meaning that you probably have a passport that is not legit some way.
But I think there is people that have more than a single passport.
There are people. I mean, there are people who have passports at 3 countries, 2 countries. Yeah.
Sure.
But also, you were supposed to hand both of them in. So why did you not do that?
You know, it takes me back where, and we were actually speaking about this case with my wife and sister-in-laws. Gavin Watson.
Okay. Oh, Maldives.
Okay, personally, not on legal terms. Do you really think he's dead?
No, he's very much alive.
But why is our legal system, but why did they not play their role to make sure that they uncover all the lies behind that story?
Do you know why Gavin Watson is getting away? Because fortunately for him, he got away on time. Just before he was charged. The reason why all of this attention is on Agrizi is because he got charged. And just like the Guptas, look at how the Guptas got away. They got away because they were not charged yet. Nobody could do anything to them because nobody had pressed charges against them. I mean, until the law says, listen, you have been charged, then the law can take its might and say, you can't leave the country, you can't come back. But I mean, Watson was not charged, so he died. He died.
As he was supposed to, respond and give account.
Who state capture. And then once he had obviously given all of that evidence, that full evidence, who state capture, and the charges had come, then he wouldn't have obviously gotten away. But I know he's in Maldives. He's probably Robert in Maldives, living his best life.
So let's speak about Agrizi. The charges he's looking at. How many years?
Not less than 10 years. Corruption, money laundering, conspiracy to commit fraud.
Yeah. Does this then also reflect? Will this also go to Vincent? Is it Vincent Smith?
Well, he's also charged with that. I think he's also charged with corruption, fraud. Obviously, it will be based on the circumstances of each of the individual cases. But all those people, those commissioners by correctional service, and all those people have all been charged with corruption, conspiracy. And Agrizi, you must remember, it's not just one charge, it's multiple. So he's facing boom at 20. If I don't blame him for being sick. He's probably also just like, you know what, probably he's also gonna die. I have a feeling that he's also probably going to die in hospital.
That's if he's not dead as we speak.
Yeah, he's probably dead.
13 minutes after 7 o'clock. Another big story, or what other story do we have on this?
You touched on it, Senegal. Yeah, and I think it's breaking news. I mean, not only is that a legal matter, but it's a huge public interest matter. I mean, this has really shown, it goes to the root of, is there really this multicultural country, kumbaya, do we all love each other as we say we do. I think and I don't know, I've noticed that every single year something like this happens that really questions this whole democratic country that we live in. We are one unified, loving, diverse nation, and we love each other.
What's your personal view on the Rainbow Nation story in South Africa?
I think the Rainbow Nation, we were sold a dream.
Yeah.
It never materialized, and here we are.
And what do you think are the necessary interventions at this point in time?
I think, and I'm being very honest, I think there's still a sense of entitlement on our white counterparts. They have this sense of entitlement, and we have allowed it.
I hear you.
Over the years. We have allowed them to feel as if they own this country, they own everything in this country. And that is why when 99 out of 2,000 of them are being killed, the whole world has to stop for them. And I'm not justifying farm murders. I'm not justifying the death or the killings of anybody. But that is why they feel they can go and commit terrorist acts by jumping on police vehicles, burning them, going into courts and shooting people because they want these two people.
I'm glad you jumped into that story, a very important one. The guy at that Senegal incident was actually granted bail. I remember the Senegal magistrate court, the Senegal court, Imohanis.
High court.
High court, Yamufaiwan.
Yes.
That's the first, just taking it back to Bonginkosi Kanyin, I think from the EFF Student Command. A similar case happened as well. Kafis Masford.
Yes.
He was denied bail.
Exactly.
On all the courts. It took about 6 months for him to be given the bail. Why was there such as a large distinction between these two people? Because of both of them were not harmful people.
Yeah,
right?
I think this man is alleging he was a tow truck driver. He was there to tow the police van, and somehow he got embedded in all of this. That is his story. He's sticking to it. He says he was a tow truck driver. He was there to tow the police van, and somehow he found himself in all of this, which is very convenient. And I think you touched on something very important. It shows how the law is not applied fairly. I mean, I've seen it myself. Yeah. I've been in practice for years. I've seen the law, and I've seen how it's applied. The law is never applied fairly, and I'm being very honest about it.
I once asked my law lecture on that, and because I was saying to her, why is that it seems as though that some people have got more rights than the others?
Yeah.
And she said it is not that others have more rights than the others. It is just that the law sometimes is interpreted differently.
Thank you.
In certain cases and in other cases.
So that is what I think that is what makes the law beautiful and what also makes it annoying. That's what I hate and love about the law. That the law allows each and every single one of us to have different interpretations. I mean, even judges themselves. I've had close interactions with judges where I used to work with them. The one judge interprets a section very differently from the other. So it's all about the person who you are in front of, who's your presiding officer, and how they interpret it. And that is why we have things such as appeals, because if you feel this person didn't interpret it correctly, then you can appeal, which is what has happened in this matter. They went to a higher court and appealed.
But then doesn't this sort of, in one way or the other, disempowers those that are in a disadvantaged position? Because if I don't have the knowledge, or this thing was not interpreted properly. I mean, I was looking at the inconsistencies of the law. I mean, there's a big case, a very interesting story that is trending in the USA of a gentleman who was convicted wrongfully in the US. I don't remember the guy who went to sing. I think it was US Britain or USA's Got Talent or whatever.
Oh yes.
He was also interviewed on the Steve Harvey show, and it didn't make sense to me that this guy was convicted and get that thing the character witness part, where the person was not sure if they saw him. They just wanted a face that looks
familiar, similar to that.
As long as there's a conviction, this person was wrongfully convicted. But don't those things sort of create even much more deeper divisions within society?
It does, definitely.
Because I'm imagining if I'm Mokete here and I go to prison and then I get affected in prison, I become a monster when I come back here. The issue of forgiveness for me doesn't cut it out because of I feel that my life was lost. Why can't we fix that? as the legislation of the world, not even just of South Africa.
Yeah, I mean, wrongful convictions are an issue across the globe. I mean, you just mentioned another one from the US. I mean, there's even documentaries that play often on TV about wrongful convictions in the US. I mean, there are people who've been in prison for 25 years. And only after 25 years where a lawyer decides to help them, and it's usually public interest lawyers who are doing it for free pro bono, they decide to help them. They finally see, this didn't make sense. There was no evidence. And it's actually amazing how many people get convicted without evidence, So, and you're right, it creates discrepancies within society. Already we know, and I'm very, very honest, the law favors those who have money.
But
and
for me,
those who really don't have money, because those who really don't have money can go to law society or legal aid and get free legal advice and whatnot. The rich have all the money in the world to get an attorney. Agrees can get 25,000 lawyers.
Yeah.
And then there's people who are in the middle class who, I mean, if I had to choose between appealing a Metaya, my brother who's accused of rape, when I'm also starting to doubt whether he did it, and I had to choose between that, spending lawyer's fees on that, and paying for my daughter's school fees. Daughter's school fees is going to weigh more. So the middle class are disadvantaged because of that.
It goes back to even universities because of the missing middle.
And as far as I agree, they are too poor. They are not rich enough.
And
they are not poor enough.
They are too poor to afford, but they're too rich to can receive the funding. It's a sad story.
Yeah.
It's 20 minutes after the hour, 7 o'clock. We want to just go back to the music. I think we've been talking for quite a while now.
Yeah.
And get more songs coming through, and we're going to get exactly what's happening up afterwards.
012-382-4936. That's 012-382-493.6.
We take it back to Mfana wase, is it KZN, Umsawawa. With this one, it's Bibo.
All this time,
Thank you.
Tshwane FM is taking over Pretoria. Tshwane FM 93.6. The future is now. Tshwane FM 93.6.
This is for my people hustling on the corner, out of breath, trying chasing that paper. For my people crying on that 9 to 5, working hard every day just to stay alive. See many different faces in many different ages. See many different faces in so many different places. See many different crimes, too many different minds. There's so much to see, looking through us in a different eyes. See many people struggle, see many people hustle, see many people flossing, but they ain't seeing nothing. See many people looking for something. See many people talking, but they ain't talking for nothing. It don't matter where you from, but only where you gone. Cause only where you gone can determine where you from. And I know that when we gone, whatever where we from, we probably would be wrong. I'm shining like the sun. This is for my people hustling on the corner, out of breath, trying chasing that paper. For my people on the grind, on that 9 to 5, working hard every day just to stay alive. This early morning, thinking about the grind. How we gon' stay ahead, can't let more than fall behind. My mama always told me when I was a little child, you gotta keep it going, so forget up your big behind. Keep it going, even though you know you had enough. Cause you never know what's easy until you get it tough. I guess in life you gotta keep it short to have it longer. And what doesn't kill you will only make you stronger. When the going is tough, you gotta keep pushing. Let no one bring you down, only you know what you're doing. The land is spoken, it's up to you to teach. So we can make a difference, then we can live in peace.
This is Tony.
Oh, nice to meet you.
He's a criminal.
You look that way.
He's a criminal.
You don't mind if I record, right?
No, I'm recording it.
This is for my people hustling on the corner, out of breath, trying chasing that paper. For my people on the grind, on that 9 to 5, working hard every day just to stay alive. This is for my people hustling on the corner, out of breath, trying chasing that paper. For my people on the grind, on that 9 to 5, working hard every day just to stay alive.
This is Tshwane FM 93.6.
Hey, Sid, Peter, check it out, y'all, right now.
93.6. Tshwane FM 93.6. Your station. Your station. Tshwane FM 93.6. 46. That city's number one radio station.
525,000 moments only. 525,600 meters. How do you measure my feet? In daylight, in sunsets, in midnights, in clouds of nothing, in beaches, in miles, in laughter, in strife. salimizi kukhele kumoja stasi kubenefit usedi montolo leje utabele for the whole day what is going to make the sun asiku tukata da dinsu kwasha kwafisa basiro le fase classe de khalasu abetsa para ikesi babona ba imetakare batsene bale makai la lena kama kala kumakai okatsa bole monyebo motelele chaka chaka batokana bituna la chaka chakona kana mana simambeli amokhela matsi akamudomo kweli kweli pura insuti secondo esokale kweli para kani bondo neta kabo nyenga bakata dile chara buena musime sinele sele basi samantha Kisibona kaya, kisibona umatama umaka Tantabela hela, wakakina kanaka Simenela sela kaya, kaya Kuroko kibatwa kwa kuzo jure Akina soka kihema Jimombi deng, huko ringo split the page Umbona kufere fere, make it simmer with fire No food, no job, please have a worry You know good, but it's not good to have no Wabona, anatia matete the soul Kucha kutoku de mano, kalala Kipaka the food, give it down Wakaka le rato, leke la mojela Listen for eke bona, quiero le peti mudim Rote, I quiero fiti no papa la capona kuna Sele na sama de sa sete to see See la cara con la foto de Jesse to see Jesse to see them Mahato, Kutaka, Mangana, the floods with a part, the Silizapa, the bar, the Salaki, Mosana, Janari, Dimano, Gandama, Wokinja, Mazawa, Hala, Wuka, the Chamera, the Gama, the Ama, the Pula, Pula, we meet, and Karachana. 45 Boromela, Iji, Boromela, Chipo Sose, Masati Fakiri, Mabusibo Pandotara, Mabusimo, Napoto Sela, Jara, Musipatela, Olivia, Fasu, and Cosa Sela, Mudina, Jara.
Tuksinganga on this one, it's 500. I'm Magalena, I'm on the Ubadi Bizangati, man. It's all Sakatagans. I give 525,600 minutes. I can't president. Love the music from this letter, Tuksinganga. He also plays great music. I mean, his song is the closing song, rather, it's the theme song for Skim Sam. That is Tuksinganga on that one. Another trending story, man. It's the issue around the Mabopane Highway, Mulaguthio Martins. There's about, it seems as if there's, these young Zimbabweans men who were arrested for the violent crimes on motorists on the R80 highway. They allegedly hid around the Theo Martins Mountains and attacked unsuspecting motorists with stones and then dragged them into the bushes. Now, people were stabbed, beat up, and forced to send e-wallets. One person was found dead at the spot, while others were lucky to come out alive. And I'm just thinking, but from what I was hearing, it seems as if these people that are arrested are not the only ones. Because if I can see even in the comments, some people are saying bar shorter, and they should be released so that the community should deal with them. Sure. Yeah, let me just check some of the comments here. These guys are busted. Criminals must be punished. They don't deserve bails. I think they are many. I dire the church that wanna demo dinache. Heba. I totally agree, Luena, and they've been saying Kebaba 5, Ukaiwabo 5. Surely he's from another group somewhere. No. Yeah, Omar, he's gonna look for another group. We have to set up a trap for them and catch all the culprits. Hectic story there. And Slado there says they deserve to be hanged or castrated. And Vincent, they must be placed with the 28th in jail to become women. These people, they're gonna finish us. They must not get bail. They deserve to die as well, since they've killed other innocent people. And it's a serious matter in our country, seemingly. I see Tony Mampuru is with us in studio.
Sharp, how's it?
Sharp. Bon smile. Maro naman kudi se mo tfam no smile na lena. Sharp urata na wena sharp.
You know.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you're not denying urata na. You don't want. Okay.
I didn't say that.
What do we have in property today? We spoke a lot on the legal matters today. Eh?
Yes, actually, I think it's actually good that she's here. Okay. I guess you can help me out with this.
Well, we'll see about that.
You're a conveyancer, I assume, right?
No, I'm not a conveyancer.
Do you know anything that has to do with conveyancing?
A little bit. Yeah, so we'll see.
All right.
What do you have for us?
So what I have for you guys today is that I just want to start off with an introduction with regards to explaining and also understanding the transfer process. So once you've signed your offer to purchase, and then the documents are with the attorney, what happens from there?
Yeah.
So essentially that's what I'll be explaining today. Hopefully next week I can bring an expert that will further explain this in more detail.
Yeah.
So firstly, before you buy a property, you're gonna look for the property, see the property, view the property with the agent, from there over sharp. And then obviously if you are concerned and happy to actually make an offer, you start making the offer. From there, in order for you to make an offer, you need the offer to purchase, which is a formal agreement. So in order for you to buy a property from someone, it can't just be a verbal agreement. It has to be a written agreement by law. So I'm just going to fit away and get accept boy. We have to say link boy. Sure.
Nah,
it shouldn't be like that. It has to be something that's literally signed and written. Both parties have to sign and also agree that they're actually coming into this agreement, which is binding.
While we're still on binding agreements, I've just got a reminder that there were actually people who were asking about what we spoke about last week.
Really?
Yes, the 350, and so they wanted actually the link to the proper information. I'm sure if you can just maybe lead those that are listening at this point in time. How do they access that?
Okay, just for the listeners who weren't listening last week, we were talking about FLISP.
Yeah.
FLISP, it stands for Finance Linked Individual. Okay, I just forgot the term. Okay, but anyway. So FLISP, so where to access the information, go to www.flisp.co.za. FLISP. No, there's listeners out there who weren't listening, so I'm just trying to help.
I'm saying, I want how to financial what. Hey. But interesting. I think just back to the discussion at hand today. Now the legalities of buying and selling house, and this is a very important aspect. Refilwe because of mola go dikase mole lona ka rena re ke ne lo o bolela uncle ya ora mon uncle nang ka draftela ko contract ibla re are maponetseng re tsa affidavit
affidavit yone
but it's affidavit.
Remember the last time we had Stu here?
Yes.
She actually mentioned one of the things that happened Kokas.
Yeah.
Whereby the agreement is sort of something like, no, Swara, here's a paper stating here's your name and surname, not knowing that that's actually the municipality rates.
Yeah.
So some people think that's the title.
No.
Yeah. So people should be mindful of that.
So mama,
you know, and then some people actually are that gullible.
Yeah.
They think that actually that's the agreement.
Yeah.
They think they're entitled to the property. Chigi, 3 years later, they try to sell the property only to find out there's actually 3 people that have been staying here. The main owner, Kins Mang Mang, and in order for the property to register, you need the first owner, the person who.
So if the first owner, Hana,
well, tough, unfortunately.
Yeah,
there's nothing you can do.
But so the best way, let's say you find yourself in a predicament where you've paid money to a person and they misled you legally. What can you do?
So, that's why it's always important that when you do an offer to purchase, that agreement will be handled by a transferring attorney. So the transferring attorney, when they receive funds, it shouldn't go into their bank account. It should go into their trust account. That's very, very important. The trust account.
Yeah.
And the trust account should be an interest-bearing account. So the interest that is formed should come back to you. That's very important. The reason why is because now, let's say I want to buy a property from you. And then I deposit 30,000. I can simply give it to you and then you just run away. That time, it could be a thing of you weren't actually the actual owner. Coming back to that scenario, let's say.
And the 30,000 never out.
Exactly. So you can simply run away. So it's very important that the money should be transferred into a trust account. It can either be the agency, but it should be in the trust account, or the transferring attorney, which should also be in the trust account. And also be mindful that there's a lot of scams that happens. So sometimes it can happen that, let's say, you're the transferring attorney. Let's say the name of your law firm is Mokete Law Firm. Someone might try to mimic Mokete Law Firm and send the details to me and be like, hey, thank you for your property. So you can send your details or the balance of your property into this account. There's a lot of fraud that happens along those lines.
How do I verify this?
So you need to make sure that with the agents that signed the offer to purchase, make sure that in most cases, some of the offer to purchases, they do show which transferring attorney will be doing the transfer. So then at least you will know. And after the offer to purchase has been processed by the agency, it goes to the transferring attorney. Then the transferring attorney has to introduce themselves to you and state that Naki Namuketi, I'll be the one transferring your property, and then they're going to start requesting for different documents. In the midst of that, that's when they're also going to provide you with the necessary information to process everything.
Interesting. 43 minutes have gone since now 7 o'clock, and here we are, man, with Tony Mampuru, still with our legal mind. That is Refs here. Refilwe, you want to jump in on that one? I think this ties in as well in terms of the lack of the necessary information and comprehension of what is legally viable.
And he raised a very important point. I mean, scams about banking details where you get an email saying, please transfer the balance, or this is the account you're supposed to transfer the purchase price into, is actually an issue, and people have been warned against that. And also just agreements where, and I think it happens a lot, guys, where 4 people buy the same house.
Exactly.
4, 6 people. And they're all there. But they're all good. Because this one person keeps selling the same house to 6 people, 7 people, because like you said, bofa stuff maspala, bida maspala, and you think, oh, I got this house. It's a title deed. I did title deed to turn to good deeds registry's office. You must, if you need to get a copy, that's where you must go get the copy from.
Deeds office.
You know, I hear what you guys are saying, and also I want to be cautious with the fact that some of the listeners at home, it's people belong, some of these things it's easy to you know, there's this scheme as well where companies, especially maybe either financial services, home affairs maybe, or whatever the case may be. But ID number how of but please confirm your ID so that we know we're speaking to the right person.
Yeah.
Yes.
How do we prevent such a scam?
You know what I do?
Yeah.
When somebody calls me, but I don't care, you can tell me you're from Standard Bank, call me by like 10 names that I have on my ID. I always ask you, okay, start. I tell them start and I'll confirm it. I tell them give me the first 6 digits, then I'll confirm it.
Yeah.
I mean it's not it doesn't give me the greatest ease, but I'm at ease because if you can give me the first 6 digits or the first 4 digits, then we are good to go. But I refuse. I always tell them if you're not going to give me the first 4 digits and I don't know why you're calling me, even if you're from Standard Bank, I don't care. I'm not going to answer the question.
Oh, Standard Bank, important.
Yeah, they do that to me. There's a caller from Standard Bank now who calls me and tells me, hey, I'm calling you from Standard Bank. Please give me your ID, confirm your ID. And I always tell them, no, give me the first 4 digits.
Yeah.
I think it's a way. I mean, it's not 100% safe, but at least, Nyana, you know.
Hey,
yeah.
market was Standard Bank.
Give her my gate.
Potentially go Standard Bank. Tony, if that was our sharp.
Yeah.
You must make sure that you must deal with that Standard Bank person. You must deal with that person. Go Standard Bank. Go Bola for Standard Bank. That's what I thought. 46 after 7 o'clock. But in terms of the purchase of houses, what are some of the other schemes that people should be mindful of, Tony, in the line of work that you guys are in?
So here's another thing. When doing the agreement, it's very important that, okay, this one is not necessarily a scam, but it's more for mistake, which is very bad. So on the agreement, it's best to make sure that the details. Okay, so here are the important things that need to be included. Both parties, which is the seller, which is the purchaser, right? Their details, where they stay as well, which is the proof of residence. What also is needed is the price that both of them agree to, and also if there's any suspensive condition. Another important factor, which I'm getting to, is the property description. Sometimes what happens is that here's a typical mistake that happens. Let's say they build the room J10.
Yeah.
And then the developer was like, okay, so the room J10, this is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then someone is instructed to go put up the number. That guy starts from this side at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, instead of the other way. So the door number and the unit number can sometimes not be the same thing because of those mistakes.
Okay.
So sometimes you do find people that they're buying a property only to find out it's actually the wrong property they're buying.
Yeah.
Because of the legal description of the property. That's very important.
Okay.
Very, very important.
I thought properties were described, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought you would say ERF 2, 4, 5 dwelling. Is that not how you describe?
Okay, that's also part of the description.
Okay.
So I get ERF, it's Kistan.
Kistan, okay.
But then sometimes in the stand, it can
have multiple buildings. Okay.
Yes, multiple units.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh?
In school. The ERF, what?
Okay, ERF Kistan.
Kistan. One in the stand.
Stand number 455.
Can I film fighters? Some of these people don't know. 49 after 7.
And then also here's another important thing. Also, so there's F and there's also portion.
Okay.
So it can be F551 but portion 2 or portion 3. So inside the F, our splits are physically, but then inside the F it's actually split according to the database by the town planner. So those legal descriptions are very important.
Okay.
Very important. Because now no one Utusha they're transferring it to you. For one. So if the first agreement is 100%, everything else would go well.
Amazing. 49 after 7 o'clock. What normally cause delays in terms of that purchase from one person to the buyer?
Okay, so you remember the first thing that I normally say on the show, guys, please get pre-qualified so that you know how much you qualify for.
Yeah.
So sometimes people make an offer that time they're not qualified. When you're not qualified already, it can take close to, some contracts, they have got this agreement of, we give you, for instance, 21 days in order for you to get approval from the bank. Getting approval from the bank is when you physically go to the bank and get pre-qualified to see how much that specific bank can give you. But what would be best is for you to go to all the banks instead of one bank. Because your bank can just say, no, we're not qualified, so. Whereas another bank can give you a better quotation, which you can compare with your personal one. So some contracts, they state that we'll give you, for instance, 21 days. And then after that, with 29 days, we give you a further 14 days. So plus minus, let's say that's like 40 days in total. Or what? Whereas if it's a cash deal, already the only factors that are needed for the contract is just all the documentation that needs to be collected, like your FICA documents, your SARS documents, and then now if it's a sale that is done through a bond, now a suspensive condition is that the person needs to be approved by the bank. But then now the fact that it's taking time to approve, that can make it long. So that's the first one. When you're buying through the bank, make sure that you pre-qualified before you make the offer. Because now if you've got the pre-qualification, it's like we took cash basically, because the bank has granted me this much. So that's the first one. The second one is that now when the transferring attorney requests for certain documents, such as your FICA documents, your ID, your proof of residence, like don't delay. So that's another thing. Another thing that could possibly delay is when you have to for instance, the deposit or the full purchase price. If you're, for instance, buying cash, that can also delay the process. So the people that actually delay the process, it's the parties involved. It can be the seller, it can also be the purchaser. The seller, how he or she can delay the process is by taking time to produce the COC. Like I said, a COC is a certificate of compliance. It could be either for electricity, it could either be for pest control. It's different from cities to cities. For instance, if go Durban, I think, or Western Cape, there's something called a COC, the pest, whereby you need to call someone who's a pest controller to physically do an examination. Whereas Kamwana in Pretoria, the normal cases you'd find is for electricity, another one is for gas installation. Because now you don't want to buy a house, meaning the gas isn't working fine. Next thing, the house explodes. So a certificate is needed that will go hand in hand with the offer to purchase. So now, how this protects you now is that you, as the purchaser now, you know that you're buying a property that is in good standards.
I hear you.
In terms of electricity and gas installation. So sometimes, coming back to your question, the seller can now delay that process, because it can happen that he calls an electrician to come and fix, only to find out that there's a major fix that has to be done, and only 10,000 rand. And now the seller doesn't have the 10,000 rand. So the tabala is more.
Just on the delays, another important thing is, so if a house is a new development, after how long should the person go and register for tax and rates?
Yeah, good question.
For taxes and rates.
So
I assume, I'm not completely sure, but I assume that normally when you buy the development, we don't come out on a zero. So it's not like you're going to buy the property and then there's already the rates and clearance that need to be done. So that's how I can answer.
But now after how long should the person go and get registered for that to pay for the tax and rates?
Obviously, the day it registers, it's already on you.
It's already on you.
But so remember, given now the client, there's a specific period no longer for those documents and other things out. Now you can go to the municipality. Now and you clearance certificate, letter.
Let me put it this way. So the moment the property registers into your name, all the risks that were on the first party, it comes to you. So that means the following month you must palato bilawe. So if you just chill for the next 3 months, the problem will be is that when you go back after 3 months, they'll tell you that no, you should have came here after the property registered. So this is how much actually So I could simply say the day it registers because it clocks from the municipality side.
54 after 7 o'clock. So I think there's been also another distinction in terms of what exactly do we mean by tax and rates? Is it tied in electricity money? What exactly does it mean? Because of some people think that for instance how kolota meets me, how rega electricity. And so is there a distinction between tax and rates and the electricity? What?
Okay, so rates and taxes is a fee that you pay to the municipality.
Okay.
Yes. So the fee is, for instance, in the specific suburb to maintain the streets, to fix the roads, also in the rates. And okay, so statements can differ depending on where the property is. For instance, if it's just the full title, that statement will include the rates and taxes.
Mm.
Underneath that, it will okay for the water usage you use this month. This is how much you need to pay. Also,
That's
there's certain charges like
refuse
SPA
removal
and also sewage.
Yeah.
So it's different from place to place. But in most cases, rates and taxes is for the suburb to be kept clean or to maintain the suburb. The rates
So if it's an estate,
you still pay rates and taxes.
because remember the estate as well, you know, the what do you call it? Levies.
So now levies, that's also a different thing. So each and every property has to pay rates and taxes because they are registered. Yes, and then levies, that's like levies. Take it as though you've got your own full title house, and then security guard, gardener, everything.
So you are paying for those services.
Paying for those services.
Okay.
Yeah. So picture levies as that.
Okay.
Interesting. 55 minutes, 56 minutes after 7 o'clock. This is where we leave it tonight, and we're going to jump into more great music. But before we do that, we need closing arguments. Usman Tat.
Yeah, don't forget to go get your wills done. It's free. Wills week next week, the 26th to the 30th.
Hey, why are you doing?
Yeah, guys, kopalete di wheelchair. Yo,
I
can share, guys. Who knows? You might want to give me your watch.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah. So please go out there, go get your wills done.
Can I ask you a question? You know, my friend and I, before I came here, were actually listening to what you were saying. And then he asked me a question. What if
your girlfriend and you what?
My friend. So now, what happens, let's say now, I'm in a situation where I'm about to die. And as I'm about to die, I take out my phone, it's on our Facebook Live, and again, no, my car should be taken by Smang Mang. My house should be taken by Smang Mang. What does that do now? What happens?
That's not a valid will.
But then it was my last words though. And I don't have a will.
It was your last words. You're gonna die interstate. So like there are certain requirements that a will has to comply with. Right? It has to be witnessed by 2 witnesses, all those things. Those like it's best to go and consult with an attorney. And we actually spoke about that. There actually hasn't been, and I'm actually going to make it a point to confirm what I just said today. There actually hasn't been case law where that has been found to be a valid will because it doesn't necessarily meet the requirements. You must remember if you leave a video like that and everybody contests, if let's say you left your girlfriend the house and she's very much invested in that video being your valid will, she'll obviously push for it. And then you have your family members who are like, well, you know, I deserted the house, we're going to take her on. Then they take her to court. It hasn't been before a court to say, so I'm actually going to go and confirm this statement. But according to my knowledge, there hasn't been a hearing where they've said that a video recording is a valid will.
Because you might be intoxicated.
Exactly, you might not be of the right mental capacity. Yeah. You might be induced by the drugs and medication that you are taking. So those are things that are going to come to play. Actually, and that's a very important
there's a gun
factor.
Pointing at you.
Exactly, that is actually a very important factor that he raised. So when they decide the validity of a will, those are the things they're going to consider. Because what also happens is where people go quickly, when you are literally fast to dying, outside needs a week, and then witnesses, you can contest that to say this person was not of a sound mind when they signed that.
Yeah.
So I wonder on that you really can say what's about.
Yeah, I know.
And then just to add on what you said about being on a sound mind, also when you're writing contracts, the offer to purchases in particular, all parties should be on a sound mind.
Yeah.
On a sound mind.
Yeah.
It's very important as well.
It's true. 58 after 7 o'clock. But it's to make sure that you're on a sound mind. Otherwise, Remo.
What's up? You're listening to the best.
All the way. This one is by that man, Sinyaka man, born 1956 on the 25th of March, on 1956. He was born to Moses Kekana, a political activist within the Pan-Africanist, Congress of Azania. He was born Tula Kekana, and better known as Sinyaka on his stage name. Born rather on the 13th of April 1956 at Everton in the Vaal of South Africa, and passed on the 25th of March 2015 at the age of 58 in Vereeniging, South Africa. Oh, Peggy, I'm told he was a rapper. I don't know why I didn't hear much of rapping. I think it was legit a classic of his own. He was a comedian. He was everything. His father Moses was involved in the 1950s Everton bus boycotts. Before that, Kikana Senior was involved in the ANC Youth League. His aunt gave him the unofficial name Sinyaka, meaning blob of jelly. Yeah, man. After being impressed and amused by his chubby appearance when he was born in Everton on April 13, 1956, he rose to fame in the 1980s for his hit single Go Away, and he's credited as being South Africa's first rapper and one of the first African rappers. Former radio to DJ Tuso Mutaung, when he speaks about Sinyaka, he laughs and says, that boy, when you interviewed him, you'd have to be extra careful, be on your toes, and pay attention to what he says, because if you relax, unsavory words and vulgar will be said on your show, and that can cost your job. But the boy used too much vulgar, and he just didn't give anything. It was a character in him, but above all, Tuso praises Sinyaka for his creative. In the early 80s and 90s, Sinyaka have dissed Brenda Fassie in some of his songs for turning him down, e.g. Machens, saying Brenda doesn't feel real OGs, and Brenda came para, and she responded by calling Skhatla Maband. Yeah, but I think the bigger one, Sampama. I think this one was quite big, and the Kagara name is for Matebele Tlen from Zebediel in Limpopo. That's apparently where the Kagana name comes from. But yeah, I mean, great tune by Prasinyaka on this one. That is Chisampama. Another lovely one as we let you go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We had a lovely time, Lilona. And we're hoping that we'll have you again once upon time next week, same time, same place.
Yeah.
Okay, here's these ones. These gentlemen, super talented. If really things were to happen, I would wish to have these guys back again. Very talented group. I've never met such a talented bunch of gentlemen. Talented, great music, rhythmic elements. Yo. This one, hello, mister. Good evening.